All right, heading into the fall, MAGA is looking very buff. Woo! Yes, Trump has big guns, and there are big guns aimed behind him that are going to help propel MAGA to win this fall. In fact, there is a beautiful push of conservative media going on this fall behind the scenes. You have people like Dan Bongino reaching many people, probably 800,000 per episode. You have Don Jr. with his podcast reaching probably 300 to 400,000 per episode. Here he's interviewing, keep your eye on this one, Raheem Kassam, great writer, great editor on a National Pulse if you want some really good news. You also have Stephen Crowder, and reaching probably almost 1 million people per episode. Here they're doing an exclusive interview of actually breaking news about Pornhub, showing how that company supports rape and child porn. So they're doing great investigative news, breaking news. Let's see here. Then you have Kimberly Guilfoyle. She probably gets 300,000 per episode. But every time she interviews Darren, how do you pronounce that? Beatty? 2 million per episode. I think it's because people really appreciate Revolver News. And so all this is going on the weekdays and on the weekends. You have Mark Levin. Now he's got shows running Saturdays and Sundays. He is the author of the new book, The Democrat Party Hates America. How is it doing? It's #1 right now on the Amazon charts. So he's influencing many. Wow. There's so much in the works. 13 days from now, you get the huge bombshell book drop of Breaking Biden by Alex Marlow. Great expose where he does all the in-depth, detailed analysis. You also have coming out in October, Police State by Dinesh D'Souza. That's going to be a big factor in changing and swaying people's minds. You have others behind the scenes, Charlie Kirk, Sebastian Gorka. All these things are going on. You even have Tucker. What's Tucker up to lately? Well, he's just interviewed Argentina's potential next president, Javier Milei, if I'm saying it correctly.
Yes, Milei.
What's unique about Milei is that he is so conservative, and he is able to attack socialism so exquisitely when he speaks. In fact, he's wonderful in his pro-life stance. He's so good that they've said we need to follow his example in attacking abortion. The Federalist did an entire article about how well Javier can just logically, scientifically, methodologically attack abortion. He's fascinating. What also is fascinating about this is how much it's getting shared. This video, put out, what was it, the 14th, has been shared over 418 million times. There is a large percentage of Twitter that's international, a large Spanish-speaking contingent throughout South America, Central America, Latin America. They're wanting to hear from people like Javier. So, praise the Lord.
Yes.
Now, all this is not going on just freely with no pushback. There's some really, some big fights going on, big pushback. Notably, you have Jack Posobiec, you have Tulsi Gabbard, are now on a Ukrainian hit list. You can read about this. It's a pretty serious hit list. No small thing. So they are up, named among the names because of their anti-Ukraine war stance. You also have Don Jr., his account on Twitter, X, was totally savaged and, what would you call it, hacked. And then they're going after Russell Brand. Why are they going after Russell Brand? Didn't Hollywood love him? Hollywood does love him, but he's talking these days like a conservative on many issues. He is red-pilling millions, and they can't have that happen. He's under attack with all these allegations suddenly coming out of nowhere. So the battle's on. Why they're pushing so hard against Jack Posobiec? He has uncovered a large child trafficking ring in the Ukraine. where they were using a boarding school as a front for organ harvesting. This is big stuff. These are big players, and there is a fight going on. But in the middle of all this fight, you got President Trump standing strong, and he is on fire. And the way you know he's on fire is how he speaks in a public event. When he begins to speak off the cuff and not even refer to prepared remarks, you know he's having a good day. And we're going to show later why he's having such a good day. But he's interacting with the crowd. He's not using notes. The commentator was like, we've never seen anything like it. And Trump is saying things like, and this is just today, he's like, we've run twice, and I've never seen the spirit that we have this time. And he told the Iowa goers at this rally, I'm going to make sure that the people eat more bacon. Just things like that to connect to regular people. They had a college student ask him for guidance because he opened it up to questions and answers amazingly. Who does that, right? He opens it up and this college student says, well, you know, what kind of guidance can you give me? His response to her, remember, there's a lot more of you than there are of them. You don't change at all. Just stay the way you are. So he is speaking from confidence, from experience, and it's fascinating what kind of policies he's laying down. Remember, he wants to dismantle even the Department of Education.
Praise the Lord.
And so I read about, okay, you know, Betsy DeVos, you know, she had wanted to dismantle the Department of Education. I thought, is that right? And then I looked and I researched, and sure enough, this is last year. She said the Department of Education, which she used to run, should not exist. This is amazing. So I hope she gets in the cabinet again to help shut it down and give that power to the states, where it should be. A huge gift that President Trump got today, the Oil and Gas Workers Association. 47,000 members just endorsed Trump today. So this is big news. Also, something that Trump is doing to be aware of, he's addressing the religious element of the Republican Party. He was talking to the DC faith leaders and he said, you know, it's been an honor to protect the country from evil and demonic forces that want to destroy this country. And he reminded them, correctly so, every promise I made to Christians as a candidate, I delivered. And he's doing this, I think, in a sense, to prepare the religious element of the Republican Party for how he's going to be talking about abortion. And if you've noticed lately, even though he's the most pro-life president there's ever been, he's been speaking in very soft terms about his pro-life stance. Yeah. What is the idea behind it? He wants to take abortion off the table as a major issue for 2024. Why is that? Because ever since Roe v. Wade was overthrown, the red states of Kansas, Kentucky, Montana, and Ohio that put abortion bans on the ballot, all of them failed. And we felt some of this in 2022. So he's like, I'm not going to make that an issue. Also, another reason why I think he's going very soft on it currently is because who he's considering as his vice presidential candidate. He's considering, as we learned last week, Kristi Noem. She is the most pro-life governor of all 50 states. You might say, why or how? How do you know this? Because the first position she created in her cabinet as governor was a full-time advocate for pro-life to champion pro-life legislation in the state of South Dakota. Wow. She is very pro-life. So he's going to possibly be attaching to her, and he's got to kind of pave the way. Also, good news, we are winning in the polls. In so many polls, I almost wasn't even going to bring it because it's every poll you look at. Let's look at a few. Okay. Overall, just 28% of Americans say Biden inspires confidence. That is down 24 points from 2 years ago. Wow. Wow. America just not feeling it for President Biden. Take a look at the current map using the Reuters poll numbers. Okay, this was done on the 16th, very recent. This is what the Electoral College currently looks like for President Trump, according to Reuters. Biden would win 191. Trump would win 307. That is why the Democrats are pressing the panic button. All right, another poll. This one from CBS YouGov shows that half of independent voters want to impeach Biden. Wow, this isn't half of Republicans. This is half of independent voters saying, yep, he needs it. He needs it. Also very encouraging going forward is the Trump trials are going to be fantastic. It's going to be so lit. Okay, check this out. Now this is from Kash Patel. He's talking about the January 6th trial that's going to happen. He said the beauty of this indictment and how Trump arrived in person and he entered a plea of not guilty is that the defense that President Trump can mount. He goes, President Trump can issue, his defense can issue subpoenas for any witness he wants related to his defense. He can subpoena Nancy Pelosi, Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland. And this isn't just some soft thing. They can enforce a federal subpoena. So this isn't Congress. This is an executive branch judiciary subpoena. And if they don't abide by it, then the United States Secret Service goes out and gets the witness. The U.S. Marshals go out and deploy and get the witness. That's how due process works. And he says, I would love to see the witness list that they are preparing. Also, on our cultural news, we have a new, I guess, probably I will say music star, the way it's going to play out. Laura Trump is putting out a new record called I Won't Back Down. It's a remake of the famous song I Won't Back Down. The release date is September 29th. And because her and her husband both have about 7 million shared followers on social media, I think a lot of people are going to buy it and she'll be on the charts. You only need a couple 100,000 to make the record industry go topsy-turvy. And so we'll probably see a #1 hit from her. I listened to it. It wasn't bad. I listened to the vocal track on Twitter, and if she gets the right mixing engineer, yeah, it'll be very interesting. And you can tell she is from North Carolina when she sings.
Hilarious.
All right, also, sometimes you wonder, okay, we won the House as Republicans. Is it ever paying off? Yes, today it paid off. Why? Because today the House Financial Services Committee passed the bill to ban the Federal Reserve from creating a central bank digital currency. That is a big, big win. That's a big win. So there are some real benefits from controlling the House. Where else are we winning? Because we're winning everywhere. We're winning in the primaries. And President Biden is helping us every way he can to win in the primaries. What's his latest help? Well, not to be outdone by New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, President Biden is going to announce on Friday an executive-level gun control office. Now, to be fair, this office will be known as the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. But Americans know better. The reason it's really going to help us is because there's an outfit out there, maybe you've heard of it. It's called the National Rifle Association, okay? Here's like one of their yearly meetings, okay? A lot of people, card-carrying members of the NRA, and they are very serious, and something like this is going to set them off. And something else is very unique about a lot of the NRA members who are hunters. You know, NRA hunters they're good about checking their calendars, counting down the days to hunting season, and counting down the days till voting season. And it's just going to be beautiful. We're set for such an awesome primary season coming up. The NRA is going to help us greatly. They're going to show, if you vote for Democrats, your guns are gone. And so they're going to be a great help. Also, helping out is pressure is continuing about voting fraud and getting the truth out regarding voting fraud, the massive voting fraud of 2020. Here, just on the 15th of September rather, this month, you have an electronic voting machine expert testifying that his team found as many as 148,000 ballots tampered with in Fulton County, Georgia alone.
Hallelujah. Wow.
His team didn't even look at the other counties. You also have things breaking like through Gateway Pundit. They said this no-ink systems allow election staff to override election results. In fact, it was one of their readers who provided Gateway Pundit with, this is what the contract is of no ink in Oregon. And he pointed out, read this contract. The contract includes a clause that mandates the system, quote, shall allow the county election staff to override results if necessary. Wow. Wow, so there's all this stuff coming out about election fraud. And what, okay, someone keeps putting these Trump, they keep putting all these Trump, you have to be careful because they'll try to slide in Trump won everywhere. Like even here in the Situation Room, all right? You got President Biden and Hillary. Trump won. Everybody knows he won. Okay. And so now I know a moment you've all been waiting for. We have some personal reflections from beloved Dr. Fauci. Okay, moving on. We have good news regarding the 2024 election. What's good as we head towards 2024? Oh, I tell you one big good thing. More truth is emerging every day about the January 6th cover-up. More videos. The most recent one lately is the police cameras and the police talking. And here's one of the policemen saying, they set us the blankety blank up. The officer said, that's what they did. They set us up. They set up Unit 64, absolutely. And then they asked y'all to come 2 hours later. They set us up. They set us up. And here's what happened. You had the police here, and then they were ordered to withdraw.
Yeah.
Okay, so they kept withdrawing back down the sidewalk until the scene looked like this. And you could see the protesters just swarming into this opening, into this doorway. And in this very video, you can hear an officer in the unit say, I can't believe they let them in. Someone was letting these protesters in.
Into the camera.
And if that wasn't enough, yesterday you had Chief Sund testifying in the Capitol that, hey, I had 3 calls with Nancy Pelosi on January 6th. However, Nancy Pelosi said, oh, I never spoke to Sund on the 6th. But Sund says, I have the receipts. I have the receipts. So this is getting very interesting. You also have, on the 19th, yesterday, through the New York Post, the FBI, the United States FBI lost count of how many paid informants were at the Capitol on January 6th, and later had to perform an audit to figure out the number of FBI that were at the Capitol. Unbelievable. There were so many, they didn't even know the number. Then, today, you have Attorney General Garland testifying. And you have Mr. Massey saying, how many agents of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th? Garland said, I don't know the answer to that question. He goes, I don't even know if there were any. And at that point, he's like, this is the head of the DOJ who is persecuting all the January 6th men and sending them to prison. And he's saying, I don't even know if there was any. Massey said, I think you just perjured yourself. You're the guy that indicted Ray Epps. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. This is getting very good. So secondly, heading toward the 2024 elections, we have the Biden impeachment inquiry. It's underway. Biden's crimes will be made known. Look at Tom Fitton, who has a very good grasp on all this with his work through Judicial Watch. Fitton's a lawyer. He says, what? I have carefully reviewed the publicly available evidence of corruption relating to President Biden. The case for impeaching and removing Biden is the strongest against any president in American history. Wow. Wow. You even get a train whistle on that one. We're shipping him away. All right. What else is going on? Well, number 3, Biden is showing more public signs of losing his mind. All right, and we saw that yesterday at the UN speech. I'm not even going to play the video, but just listen. He's incoherently mumbling after like a slight brain freeze. It's so evident, so evident. And it's starting to freak out the mainstream media, right? Especially, it hit first. Okay, there's 2 main news outlets that channel all the news for the entire country. One of them is the Washington Post. They're number 2, and they have a hitman. Their hitman is David Ignatius. If you want to take down a political leader, you have David Ignatius drop a column. So what did he say in his column on the 13th? He says, Biden's never been good at saying no. He should have resisted picking Harris as his vice president. He should have stopped his son Hunter. But he has another chance to say no to himself this time by withdrawing from the 2024 race. It might not be in character for Biden, but it would be a wise choice for the country. So that's what he drops on the 13th. Although there's a problem with that, and the New York Times sensed it. So the New York Times suddenly had to write an article that says, wait. The idea that Biden should just give up political power is preposterous. So you have the nation's number 1 and number 2 news cranking liberal outfits. They generate all the news for print. They generate all the news for the nightly news shows, go off of all the articles of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and they don't know what to do because it's a 5-alarm fire. So bad that they had to have Governor Newsom come out today and talk about Biden's old age. And he goes, Biden's old age is a good thing. He said, I want a seasoned pro. What? Okay, so they have a real problem. Because why? If Biden steps down, Kamala Harris will run and lose badly. Why? Because very few people like her. It's that simple. So then the question is, why not replace Kamala Harris? And we learned about that last week through Larry Elder. He said, they will absolutely lose the black women vote. I mean, maybe forever. This was also echoed by Sunny Hostin. She is right at ground zero of how the liberal element of America thinks. She's a co-host on The View, and she said, if Biden dumps Kamala Harris, they will absolutely lose the black vote. Can't do it. So we have to run with Biden. We have to stick with Harris. Also great going towards 2024 is that President Trump is aggressively courting moderates, independents, and swing voters. And November 2024 is 14 months away. And he is laying the groundwork. Look where he has been. With Megyn Kelly on her popular podcast on the 14th. She represents a large swath of independent voters. Hasn't spoken to her in an interview in 7 years. But he is reaching out. And he goes further. He goes into the belly of the beast. NBC rather's Meet the Press with Kristen Welker. Look at that. Like two generals squaring off in the theater of war. They said it was a master class of how to handle an interview politically. It would be good to watch. I think they're going to probably use it in political colleges, the way President Trump handled her. Interestingly, what did he say with Kristen Welker? When asked if he was leaning toward choosing a woman candidate, Trump said, I like the concept, but we're going to pick the best person. But I do like the concept, yes. And notice the one person he refers to of all the candidates, he says, referencing a recent rally where Governor Noem endorsed him, Trump said, she's been a great governor. She gave me a very full-throated endorsement, a beautiful endorsement, actually. And it's been a very good state for me. And certainly, she'd be one of the people I'd consider or for something else maybe. But we have a lot of people, we have a lot of great people in the Republican Party. So what's President Trump doing here? Like an absolute pro, he is field testing the idea of Kristi Noem to Middle America. And he's just gonna see how that plays out. But the real gift, and something that should make you jump up and down today, is this: the United Auto Workers strike. This is such a gift. I mean, this should make you want to just.
Yes.
Well, first of all, look at their demands, because this strike ain't going away. They want a 40% pay raise and a shorter work week. Now, how would that float with your boss? You think you're going to get it? That's what they're holding out for, and they're striking with the big three auto companies. That's never ever been done. That's how broad this strike is. Why is it such a gift? Well, President Trump knows it's a gift. Guess what's happening? We learned yesterday he's going to skip the second debate. Where's he going? He's going to speak to auto workers in Detroit. President Trump is savvy, he's smart. Where's he going? We learned it last week. He's going here. And why is Trump going here? Because of this. Trump only has to win 4 out of 6 of the swing states, and what are the ones that are really going to need hard work? Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. But look at something unique about them. Michigan, 175,000 auto workers. Wisconsin, 127,000. Pennsylvania, 80,000 auto workers. And they're on strike. And so it also, again, makes me think of which vice president can go reach them and speak to them. It makes me think of this. Someone that can just say, I know how to create jobs, I know how to take care of workers, I know what it's like to be the only state in the union that did not shut down during COVID. She'll be able to talk to them. Also, we have another great thing happening as we head into 2024. Elon Musk. He is now willing to publicly defend Trump, and he did at the All-In Summit here just last week. He's talking about the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. He goes, you know, the ADL was instrumental in getting Donald Trump deplatformed. You know, before I was on Twitter, he was deplatformed. The ADL made it clear that restoring his account on X constituted hateful speech. Trump hasn't even said anything, and they want to deplatform him. So Elon Musk standing behind free speech. How's that working out for him? It's working out pretty good, because back in August, the CEO of X, if you say it, Yachirino, said in her first broadcast interview since taking on her new role, she says, our operational run rate, we're pretty close to break even. We're no longer bleeding money as a company. We're doing pretty good. Why? Because before Elon came, they lost $1.1 billion in 2021. They lost $221 million in 2022. Elon Musk comes and fires 80% of the people, gets the job done, and they're growing, and it's interesting to watch. Also helping the cause of Donald Trump is Biden attaching himself to the war in the Ukraine and deciding to host Zelensky in America again after giving him $113 billion. So we have Zelensky. 17% of his country has been taken by Russia, yet Zelensky unwilling to even consider peace talks. And he just continues to throw his people into the meat grinder, showing them what artillery strikes are like. Not to be outdone in that, Zelensky today decides to go to the UN. What does he do? He lectures them on how humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives. This is not going to play well with the American public. Why? Well, because they're doing so badly in the Ukrainian war, and Newsweek finally points it out. They said, yeah, the first year, Ukraine lost 18,000 soldiers, but this recent offensive through the summer, they've lost 50,000 more. So you got 70,000 dead Ukrainian soldiers, 120,000 wounded. I don't even know how their hospitals care for that many. and you got a Russian counteroffensive coming, most likely this fall, and yet they want to give him money so that we learned today, Rand Paul in the Senate, Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, no more. We're going to totally oppose further funding. America is just no longer going to pour billions into something that's a no-win. And what was amazing today was to see last week a statement from Candace Owens. Candace Owens would be like almost kind of like the no-Trumper zone of Republicans. She's very conservative, just not a fan of Trump at all. But what did she say? Because she has great influence. She has a large following, very large following on her podcast. She says, I don't give a blankety blank about what's going on in the Ukraine. Wow. Wow. So it's going to be very hard for them to obtain funding to further that war. Also, interesting, I'd say very positive news, more exposure is being given to the Maui fire. More truth is getting out about the fire. And in this case, it's through James O'Keefe, who has exposed Hawaii's government's ban on public photography in Lahaina. So I think that's how you say it.
Lahaina.
Lahaina. He goes undercover in Lahaina. He reveals there is a directive from the governor that there is no photography, even on public land, allowed at what's going on. So the law enforcement is enforcing this outrageous order, but even members of the Hawaii National Guard are starting to criticize it. Here he is talking to a Hawaii deputy sheriff, and the sheriff is like, nobody is taking photos. So he's exposing all this, and here he is with attorney Mike Yoder, and James O'Keefe is now suing the Democrat Hawaii governor for violating the First Amendment. So we are going to get some answers coming out. Not to be outdone by that, James O'Keefe even does more. This man deserves probably 10 raises. Why? Because he went into he snuck in to a Pfizer board meeting to get answers from the vice president of Pfizer, Josh Brown. It didn't go well, but he's everywhere. O'Keefe is everywhere looking to uncover truth. So, also, there has been a lot of turmoil in Texas politics. You might be wondering, like, what is this about? Ken Paxton, he's a good guy. He pushes for and champions very conservative good things. What's going on? Why were they so bent on indicting and taking down a good man in a good state like Texas? Oh, it's all about this guy. All about the son of Jeb Bush. What happened? Well, Bush wanted Paxton's job as Attorney General. And so he started his campaign back in 2021. He was very careful to not mention his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, all these big Texas politicians that had Bush after their name. Instead, he kind of praised Donald Trump. He thought maybe that would help. No. You got into 2022, and you found 40% of primary voters said they would never vote for this man. What's the reason? Well, 2/3 of them said, because he's a member of the Bush family. That's enough for us. We are not going to vote for him. So the vote was held just 4 months ago. And this is the results. Paxton won.
Wow.
2-1. Oh, more than 2-1. Well, that left a very bad taste in the mouth of the Bush dynasty, headquartered in the state of Texas. I mean, yes, Jeb and Florida, but he's from Texas, and they are very bitter. They're very rich, very powerful, very bitter people. So they were going to take Paxton down. 16 counts against this guy, against an innocent, a wonderful guy. In steps President Trump through what? Truth Social. And now that we've mentioned Truth Social, how are we doing in Truth Social? Oh, wow. June 1st, 5,300,000. Sitting here today, just right after summer break, 6,300,000, 380,000. Woo, what a summer it was, I'm telling you. Lots of people. Word gets out on Truth Social to call the senators, the state senators across the state of Texas, and they did. The phones were ringing off the hook. They'd answer the call. As soon as they put the receiver down, the next call came in. And it was all, if you vote to impeach Paxton, we will take you out of town so fast come primary season. And it was full court pressure. And so what happened? He was found not guilty on all 16 counts. That's a great victory. In fact, we have a photo of President Bush learning about the news that they just acquitted in Paxton. And so what was the lesson that was learned through this whole process? The state of Texas is MAGA these days. Yeah. That's what we learned, okay? And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's just, isn't it a beautiful thing? I'm just so happy. Okay. All right. Trump also is, and you can just see this anecdotally, he's becoming increasingly popular. Here we have, among Latino Americans, the Trump Latino rap group, right? They've now released their second song called Unity. Yo, it's time to unite. Latino Americans getting excited. How excited? Well, this is California, and you see a Latina woman dancing with a cardboard cutout of President Trump on a dance floor. And not just that, she is being wildly cheered on by other Latino women at this discotheque or whatever. And as we finish up here on a high note, well, we got Bud Light just not learning their lesson, refusing to apologize to the nation. So what's happening? Well, they're not being forgiven by America, and now the retailers are finally saying it's not selling. We're taking their key shelf space away. Yeah. And you know, 80% of beer is not sold in restaurants, it's sold at retailers, and sales depend on one thing: product placement on the shelf. That's the very first metric. And they're losing it this fall. And lastly, on a very high note, we have the Hollywood writers' strike. And they are still on. We're on day 141. Guess what my favorite number is?
141.
What's my favorite number tomorrow?
142.
142, amen. And they are hanging tough. Now, there's been a couple of, what do they call them, who break your scab, if you like go against the strike? This is a big strike. So who was the scab? The scab was Drew Barrymore, right? You know, she's a darling of Hollywood, and she thought she could maybe continue her TV show, and it was doing pretty good. Well, just recently, she said, I really apologize for having ever went against the strike. And so they dialed her back and said, honey, if you ever want to attend any A-list party or get any job in Hollywood, I don't know what they told her, but yeah, she is no more. You know, she is. This Hollywood writers' strike is on. When you hold tight that hard for that many days, something very, very powerful is going on. I mean, more powerful than any person. There's only one person that has the power to kind of do this thing, and it's God. It's the Lord. And He is allowing America to breathe in the evenings and not have all the news reframed by all the late night TV hosts. And for all of this, all this good news, we give God the praise for what He is doing.